Hello! In the previous masterclass, when getting to know a bulrush-styled handle, I've promised to tell you about its possible variations next time. So today I'm going to show you different options of a bulrush handle. When I started learning a bulrush-styled handle, I was fascinated by the number of possible variants based on this handle type. First, let's discuss single-colored variations when you weave the whole handle with the tubes of the same color. So, take a look, please. This handle has been woven of 5 working tubes and 1 tube of the base. As a result, you get a pattern like this. Actually, it is a handle we've discussed in the previous tutorial. You can watch the way I weave it. Then you can let your imagination fly. I felt like trying to weave handles of various numbers of working tubes. Look how different they are. All of these handles are different. I'd like to tell you from the very beginning that most of all I like the handle woven of 8 working tubes. You can see how smooth and nice looking the handle is. It has been made of thin tubes. I've used a single tube as a base. If you make a multi-tube base, the handle will be thicker, of course. So I'm going to show you how to weave my favorite handle. Well, I'll show you some other options as an example as well. At first, I'd like to show you the handles already finished. Here I've got 6 working tubes and 1 tube of the base. This means I've got 3 tubes from one side and 3 tubes from the other side. This handle is a bit thinner, but it is nice looking and smooth too. What's next? Here I've got 3 and 2, 5 working tubes. I'll explain you why 3 and 2 later. This handle has been woven of 4 tubes. If I need a thin tube, a thin handle, I take 4 working tubes, 2 directed to one side and 2 directed to the opposite side. As a result, I get such a thin handle, which is nice looking too. As my bravest experiment, I've decided to weave a handle of 4 tubes, but 3 of them are directed to one side and 1 tube opposed to them. Take a look at it. The handle is uneven but interesting in its own way. Let me proceed and explain what I mean while talking about different numbers of tubes directed to different sides. I'd recommend watching my previous masterclass to those who are going to weave this handle. In that tutorial, I've shown the way I entwine the basic tube with a piece of wire inside in detail. This time I'm just showing a different options of the same handle, so I don't insert any wire. I'm using a dry thick tube as a base for illustration purposes, so I can show you clearly the way it works. A kind of a training version. So, as I promised, I'm showing my favorite option. I've got a dark brown basic tube. Then I bend 4 working tubes to one side and 4 to the opposite side and start working. I take the rightmost tube, place it onto the basic tube and lead it rightward. Now I lead the leftmost tube behind the basic tube to the left. Take the rightmost tube again. Again, lead the leftmost tube behind the basic tube. The rightmost tube again. The leftmost tube. The rightmost. And the leftmost. That's all, the first stage is finished. Continue in the same way. The only difference from the previous video is that this time I've got 4 tubes from the right and 4 from the left, instead of 3 and 2 tubes. Try your best to place the tubes as close to each other as possible. Let's check. The tubes lie smoothly from the opposite side too. In the previous masterclass I've shown the way I lengthen the tubes in every detail, so I'm not going to repeat myself today. This is an option 4 to 4. I mean 4 tubes are directed toward one side and 4 are directed oppositely. I'm going to weave a little more and you'll see how nice looking it is. Take a look, please. This is how a single-colored 4 to 4 handle looks. I'd like to show you one more variety, 2 plus 2. All the same, one basic tube, 2 tubes directed to the left and 2 directed to the right. Let's start. Lead the rightmost tube this way and the leftmost this way. Lead the rightmost tube here and the leftmost here. The rightmost, the leftmost. Try your best placing the tubes tied to each other. The tubes have been painted with the same solution I've been using lately. Acrylic paint, colorant, varnish and water. I've painted the tubes twice with this mixture, after which I've covered them with Dufa coating diluted with water 1:1. I finished treating the tubes yesterday and today I'm weaving with them. Take a look at what I'm getting, please. The actions are identical, but the handle is turning out thinner with shorter stitches. This handle has identical numbers of tubes directed leftward and rightward as well. So the first difference is the number of tubes we work with. This can be 2 plus 2, 3 plus 3, 4 plus 4. Well, I haven't tried bigger numbers, but I believe it can be 5 to 5 and so on. The next option is what we've partially discussed last time, with 2 tubes directed here and 3 tubes directed oppositely. This is the last variation. Well, let's consider the variant 3 to 1 too, even though it is too odd. So one more option for the sake of experiment. 1 dry tube, 1 tube directed rightwards and 3 tubes directed leftwards. Turn the right tube, then the leftmost tube, again a single right tube, then the second left tube. Wrap the basic tube with the same right tube, then use the third left tube. And continue alternating this way. The right tube will be over very soon, so I'll have to lengthen it more frequently. I try my best to avoid gaps, placing the tubes tightly. Well, this option is rather interesting in a way too. Such a diversity of possible variants has amused me. I do like experimenting. Well, this handle turns out too exotic. Take a look, please. One stitch is long and the other one is very short. This results in a peculiar decorative effect. Well, where's my ready handle? I'll show it to you once again. Here it is. The tubes were a bit too dry. My current tubes are much more convenient to work with, and the result is going to be much neater. Well, a rather interesting experiment. I've decided to continue experimenting, not only with the number of tubes, but with the colors as well. Such experiments are not always justified. I prefer bulrush handles to be single-colored. But I've decided that a multicolored experiment will be appropriate for Christmas gift baskets. It is where you need something bright and eye-catching. So I'd like to show you a handle like this. Take a look, please. Here I've got an uninterrupted stripe of one color, which intertwines gradually with a stripe of a contrast color. This is my favorite handle among two colored ones. How do I weave it? I use a dry tube as a base, as usual. Well, in practice there will be a piece of wire inside it. Let it be 3 and 2 tubes, like in this basket. So I direct 3 tubes of one color to the left and 2 tubes of a different color to the right, and start the steps you are well familiar with. I haven't prepared white tubes this time, so one tube is natural colored while the other tube is red. As a result, I'm getting such continuous stripes. All the same actions, make sure you're placing the tubes close to each other, and continue. The principle is clear. The tubes of one color are directed to one side, while the tubes of a different color are directed to the other side. Well, I haven't stopped here. I was learning for still more experiments. What I mean is there's plenty of possible options. If you like experimenting, there's lots of variations to try. This is quite enjoyable. Take a look at what I'm getting, please. The tube is gradually forming the rotating stripe. This handle is made of 3 tubes directed to one side and 2 tubes directed to the other side. Let me show you one more option. Though you must have understood already, there's a vast number of variants. Anyway, one more variety. 3 tubes of one color are directed to the left, while one tube of the same color and 2 tubes of a different color are directed to the right. One light tube and 2 contrast colored tubes. Let's watch what I'm going to get in this case. As you must have guessed, one stripe will be unbroken, while the second one will be irregular. If you weave something bright for kids, you can use all tubes of different colors. But that's not everybody's cup of tea, of course. I believe playing with the shades of the same color must be still more interesting. So as you can see, there are unlimited possibilities for those who enjoy experimenting. Let's make a couple more stitches and take a look at what I'll get. Such flexible tubes are very nice to work with. So let's take a look. One stripe is uninterrupted, while the second has 2 red stitches followed by 1 light stitch. Such a creative looking handle. Well, actually that's all I wanted to tell you. But that's far from all possible options. You are welcome to try and experiment with me. It is fascinating.